Welcome back to Love Talk. I'm Gregory Morgan, and thank you for watching. It's a live show. The phone lines are open, and the number is the 818 number that you see there at the bottom of your screen. And what we're talking about today is the difference between education, which is pulling out from within that which is already there. So by its very nature, it requires introspection, self-reflection. And self-reflection looks like this. You sit down, you be quiet, and you look within, and you consider, and you watch the thoughts that arise from within, the surface thoughts that arise from within, and you consider, is this a thought that has come from within me, from my own inner knowledge and self-knowing? In other words, a message from my own soul and my own inner connectedness with all knowledge, all wisdom, all energy, all life. Is this a thought that is arising from here? Or is this a surface mind thought that is brought on by the conditioned world? Is it a thought that has been implanted or imprinted from the outside world through external conditioning? And so is this my thought, or is this somebody else's thought? And if it is somebody else's thought, because there are many wise and wonderful people who have put forth many wise and wonderful thoughts that one should consider, then you consider those thoughts and see if it resonates. By resonate, I mean, just as you pluck the strings on a guitar or a harp, if you pluck one of them, others will vibrate. They will resonate in harmony with that. So does it resonate with something in your own soul, with something in your own inner knowing? In other words, it's fine to consider thoughts that come from the outside world. However, there are surface mind thoughts, and you will always notice that they are conditioned by a sense of lack, a sense of limitation, a sense of there's not enoughness that permeates the culture and the society that has been a part of our evolution, our human evolutionary growth and development, in which resources were scarce, in which the possibility of being eaten by an animal or taken over by another tribe or another warring culture was very, very real. And so in those circumstances, the mind shifts into not the meaning of life, but the preservation of life. And our brains, your brain and mine, were built from the back towards the front. In other words, the brain stem, the reptilian brain, the primitive part of our minds, is only concern is for the survival of what? The survival of this right here, this physical survival. It wants to make sure that you keep breathing and your heart keeps beating, and that life stays inside the physical body. That's it. That's what it's concerned about. It doesn't care about anything else. It doesn't care what people think of you. It doesn't even know what people think of you. It doesn't care about opinions. It has no abstract thinking whatsoever. So there's no emotion there. There's nothing. There's only what will cause me to survive as a species. Okay? That's all that's there. And it's the reptilian brain, and it is very, very advanced, if you will. At the same time, it's very primitive. In terms of primitive machinery, it is a very advanced one. It hardly ever makes a mistake. It is able to instantly calculate what is the most likely course of action that will cause me to survive. And how you can tell that that's true is that we have survived. We've survived in a harsh and bitter world that is not benevolent to something as soft and spongy as a human being. Human beings survived because of their reptilian brain, and then it developed towards the front. In other words, the frontal cortex, which eventually developed a part called the reticular activating system. I don't know if you want to know this much about your brain and how it works, but that is the part of you that is able to perceive what is about to happen and instantly compare it to all of the past experiences that you've ever had in your entire life, or even including experiences that you have seen other people have, even though they didn't happen to you, and instantly calculate the most likely course of action to cause you to what? Survive that situation, not just physically, but now emotionally, mentally, financially, sexually, all these different concerns that we have now that we have a larger brain. We have a lot broader spectrum than just the survival of the species. Now we're concerned with the quality of our lives. The quality of life. What's going to be the most comfortable? What's going to be not just ensure my safety, but what's going to ensure my status or my well-being, or my ability to have a relationship with somebody, or what's going to make the most difference in life. So as we get more and more evolved, we become less and less concerned with our survival, because that's handled. If you're watching this show, I doubt very seriously if you're worried about where you're going to get your next meal, or whether you're going to have a roof over your head to sleep under tonight, or whether somebody's going to run up and suddenly attack you and kill you. You're probably assured your safety in some way. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching television right now. That's a quality of life aspect of life. That is not a survival aspect of life. That's something that, so you may be watching this show and so in order to get more I don't know, tips and techniques and points of view, so that you could survive your relationships, so that you could have a better quality of life. I assert that if you're watching this show, it's so that you could get some education, because everything that I'm aiming at, everything that this show is about, everything that Embrace Growth is about, everything that we do in our seminars and workshops, books, CDs, DVDs, is always aimed at bringing out from within you that which is already there. We know that you're already perfect. Now you go, oh, wait a minute, what do you mean I'm already perfect? I'm so messed up, I don't even know, which end is coming. No, the truth is that within, that's your conditioned mind, that's your surface mind that's telling you this. That's your surface mind that has been hypnotized and trained. And we'll talk about how that happened, how you got trained like that. But we've all been trained with something called conditional love. But your true nature, where you come from, where you and I come from, is unconditional love. That's where we come from, and the good news is that's where we're headed. That's where you're returning to. And part of the game that we're playing is to forget where we came from and then pretend that we have to struggle to get back there. That's just part of the evolution of humanity, the human side of human being. But let's talk about how we got trained and conditioned into that thinking in the first place. You got trained and conditioned because from the very beginning, you and I were taught a system of rewards and punishment. That's how most of your learning and development came about, and that's how you got conditioned. You either got like a little gold star when you got the answer right, or you got some little reward when you did your homework, or when you pleased mommy and daddy, or the teacher at school, or your friends. You got some symbol of love. You got a symbol of love. They gave you a little reward, a little treat of some kind, so that you could feel and experience the feelings associated with, I'm loved, I'm accepted, I belong, they care for me. So you got a reward. And then when you did something that didn't please them or something that was wrong, you got a punishment, or you had to pay a consequence or have a cost. So they made sure that you felt bad, that you felt rejected, that you felt punished, that you felt, in some cases, pain or physical pain, emotional pain, social pain, financial pain. So there's a system of rewards and punishment that is called training. It's not called education. That doesn't bring out from within you something that is already in you, your higher nature, that trains you how to survive in a specific environment. The training and development in one country may not necessarily work in another country. The training and development of boys may not necessarily work with girls, and vice versa. The training and development of an adult is not the same as the training and development of a child, and so forth. And so, if you've ever, I don't know, if you've ever trained an animal, I've had the pleasure of training dogs. Okay, I've had dogs growing up, and I was taught how to train dogs, and I learned that dogs there's kind of fall into one of two categories, and you have to figure out which one they are. Most of them respond to positive reinforcement, meaning that every time they do something well, you give them a treat, you give them a congratulations, you thank them, you give them acknowledgement and positive reinforcement that was the thing that you wanted them to do, and that you're very happy that they did it. Most dogs that are related to humans want very, very much to make that human happy. So when they can see that the human's happy, they will continue to do the type of behavior that you wanted them to do. There are others that respond to negative things. You can give them all the positive reinforcement you want, but they'll keep doing the bad thing too. So you have to give them a negative thing. You have to make a loud noise, you have to smack them with a newspaper, you have to do something negative that they move away from, that they don't want to be around, in order to get their attention and in order to train them. You're not educating them, you're training them how to behave within a certain context. You see, if they were out in nature, you wouldn't even need any of this, but since they live in your house or around you, you have to train them how to behave in a certain environment. What you and I have mostly received in our life is training and conditioning. And because we were trained by people who were trained by others, often reinforced with positive and negative rewards and punishments, we have grown to believe, and naturally so, we've grown to believe in our conditioning. We've grown to believe that the world is a particular way. And one of the underlying beliefs that is behind all of that is that your reward or your good, right, is later. It's down the road. In other words, one way to motivate animals or people is to promise them that if they behave in a certain way for a prolonged period of time, there will be some reward down the road. Not now, down the road, later on. So the underlying belief behind almost every religion, and I say almost, is that there is a good that will happen. Your good will happen later. Not now, later. And so what there is to do now is to suffer through whatever you're suffering through, to be as good a person as you can, and to behave in a specific order, in a specific fashion, within a specific environment, such that you can achieve or have this imagined good later. And just to make sure you stay in line, they also will condition you with the promise of ultimate pain, ultimate punishment, ultimate evil and darkness, and the ultimate cost or price to pay if you do not behave in a specific manner. So, given that this is an underlying matrix. Okay, do you know what I mean by matrix? A matrix or a context or a paradigm, in other words, an overriding way of thinking, right? Given that it is not only, we are surrounded inside of all of our thinking, that you and I have grown up in an environment that was shaped by an overriding set of agreements. You know, this is good, that is bad. This is right, that is wrong. This gets a reward, this gets punishment. Now, without realizing it, without ever having to think about it, you were taught in this way. And so in order to survive, and the fact that you're still here, the fact that you can even hear these words and that you haven't already been killed off by somebody, the fact that you've survived means that you've been able to operate inside of this context for as long as you have, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, however old you are. You've managed to operate with inside this very limited, conditioned, and I'm going to say the word hypnotized system of thinking. Inside this system of thinking, it is inborn that you would have anxiety. It is natural, it is normal. When there is a scarcity of goodness, and goodness isn't going to happen until later, and there is punishment that's close at hand, it is an inborn, natural, comes with anxiety. You're just in a constant state of anxiety to avoid the bad and to achieve the good, to avoid the bad, to achieve the good, to avoid the bad, to achieve the good. And this conditioning has also set up another sense of, there's a sense of falseness. In other words, you never, in that environment, you can never get to know your true self. That is your authentic self, who you really are. Because you're always attempting to portray yourself, to align yourself, to have yourself be in this environment in such a way that you avoid the bad and achieve the good. When's the good? Later, right? When's the bad? Right close by, any minute now, coming at you. So with this bad pushing you and this good hopefully pulling you, you never have an opportunity to stop and simply consider, who am I in all of this? Who am I in all of this? What is true for me? What is authentic for me? And because you never have the opportunity to do that, it is natural to admire those who have, to even idolize them or deify them, to make them into something up on a pedestal to be admired and revered and treated with ultimate respect, because they have achieved something that seems impossible to you. Also, one of the costs of this is that any self-love that you may experience will be a false self-love. Because you've never achieved self-reflection and self-knowing, authentic expression of who you truly are, how could you possibly love yourself? Because you inwardly know that everything that you're doing, whether you're consciously aware of it on your surface mind, that everything that you're doing is ultimately false. It's ultimately about survival and never about, except in those certain moments in life. Sometimes we have these moments of realization, these aha moments in which we are moved to tears, where we actually get connected with our hearts, where we actually get connected with our souls, and we get connected with another human being or with all of humanity, or with that thing which we sometimes dare to call God or the universe, and we get connected with that, sometimes just for a few seconds or for a few days or a few hours, and then we know that that's where we came from, and that's who we truly are. And it moves us to tears. But what if you could learn to live in this part of you always, and to take this out into the world, so that when you are confronted with a condition or a circumstance, that you're not seeking the reward, you're not seeking to avoid pain, you're not seeking to achieve something, but you take those circumstances, whether they be adverse or challenging circumstances, and you literally stop, sit down, and reflect within yourself. What is this situation? What is this circumstance? What are these conditionings a reflection of me? In other words, how is it that I have something to do with this? And what is it that I could learn about myself and about my relationship with the world? And you literally take the time to allow those circumstances to be your teacher, to humbly look within, to self-reflect and consider, until you begin to discover your own authentic thought, your own authentic feelings about that, and you begin to trust that. And this doesn't mean that you pull back from life and that you become a hermit. This doesn't mean that that you don't talk or interact, or that you simply go within and stay there. No, it's a moment of reflection, whether it be an hour, a day, a week, a month, I don't know, but that you use the circumstances of your life as your teacher. You use the people in your life and the adverse circumstances in your life to learn something about yourself, and then to take that learning out into the world and apply it, not like it's the truth, like I've now achieved my inner wisdom and I'm going to share my infinite wisdom with you. No, you take it out into the world and you try it humbly on your own to see what works and what doesn't work. This is the work that we want to do at Embrace Growth, and that's what even the title, the name Embrace Growth means. It means that every challenge that comes up in your life, every circumstance that comes up in your life, every relationship that comes up in your life is an opportunity to self-reflect, an opportunity to actually embrace that challenge and to really look within yourself, to self-reflect and to become authentic. To really become authentic about who you really are and what your relationship to the world and to others in your life are. And if you don't do that, then consider the consequences. Consider the possibility. We've been trained by life at a very low level of existence. And the punishment and the reward system that is in place, if you consider the rewards, they're what I call mass distraction. Especially today, the rewards are basically distractions. There are, and some of them are very consciously created by. A distracted crowd is very easy to control. A distracted population is much easier to control. A depressed or disconnected group of people or society or culture is actually much easier to govern. The philosophy is to divide and conquer, to divide human beings from who they truly are. Because you see, once a human being comes to know who they truly are and what they really stand for and their purpose in life, and they go about committing their life to fulfilling that purpose, then there's no stopping a person like that. a person like that becomes very powerful and becomes a force to be dealt with. And can you imagine, and I hope that you can, because I certainly do imagine this, a society, a world in which each and every person is actually committed to and in the process of bringing out the very deepest, the most profound, and the most authentic expression of themselves into the world, and is committed to having each and every other human being doing that as well, and trusting that this is a good and benevolent universe, that whatever happens, regardless of your perception of it, is happening for your good. You know, sometimes things happen to us when we think, oh no, you know, and those who believe that God is out there, and who, you know, you're no longer, when you begin to self-reflect and when you begin to get connected with your own inner truth, you are no longer praying to some distant, remote, reluctant God to give you a crumb, or to give you to give you something that, you know, if you pray hard enough, he or she will reluctantly relent and finally give it to you. No. That isn't even possible anymore. That's no longer even part of your existence. You are connected with an abundant source of infinite wisdom, goodness, truth, abundance, well-being, joy, fulfillment, and you know that you are a part of that, and that you are allowing it to come through you. Those circumstances that happen in your life that are painful, that are confronting, you are allowing that to come through you so that you can self-reflect and learn what you could not have otherwise learned, so that you could find resources within yourself. That sometimes one of those resources is humility. One of those resources is being more flexible or pliable. One of those resources is being able to discover in yourself strengths that you did not know that you had. How many times have you been maybe confronted mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually on some level, and you didn't think that you could deal with it, and it looked like it was overwhelming, and it looked like this circumstance was going to destroy your life, and you went within because you had no choice, and you went within and you found resources within yourself that you overcame those circumstances, and because you did, that particular thing could never bother you again, could never be a threat to you ever again. So I'm going to go ahead and take some calls.